Today's podcast is brought to you by AlleyRepair.com. Don't leave your skee ball machines lying around collecting dust in the basement. Let AlleyRepair.com bring those machines back to life. High quality workmanship for your skee ball playing needs. Contact AlleyRepair.com today. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Fro Football Podcast. This is the last episode in our mini-series of fantasy draft episodes. We're going to talk wide receivers and then try to do an overall top, say, 20 players that we're going to see for our fantasy draft. Try to give you just the first round or two. Maybe we'll go a little longer. Maybe we'll hit 3 rounds. Why not? We'll go top 30 and then get you guys ready for your fantasy drafts. If you have any questions and comments you want to shoot into us for a future episode, call into the sound off line at 267-642-1160. Give us your questions, comments, concerns, anything you want us to discuss in the future episodes. We'd be more than happy to get to that. But for right now, we're going to jump in right away and look at wide receivers. I have with me tonight my good buddy Jason Peters back with us to analyze the wideouts. How you doing, Jay?
I'm wonderful.
See that? It's another day in paradise.
Absolutely.
So, the wide receiver thing, it drives me nuts. The source that I use, for those who are tuning in for the first time, I use Fantasy Index, and they kill me every year because they combine wide receivers and tight ends to the same list.
It's obnoxious.
Oh, my God, I can't stand it. And I know they do that because of, PPR stuff and things like that, but, God, just get rid of the tight ends from my wide receiver list. I just want to see my wideouts. So,
I'm telling you, Fantasy Football Toolbox, they have everything nice and spread out and listed in nice even lists. I use that as my source material and then kind of make my own twists and adjustments from there.
If Fantasy Football Toolbox people are listening to this podcast, you owe this guy some money because he is a firm believer in your product. Absolutely. And by the way, Fantasy Index, you're not paying me to plug your product, but it is, in my opinion, the elite magazine for fantasy football preparation. Really breaks down every position, every player, multiple professionals from a variety of other books all collaborating on the index. Check that out sometime, fantasyindex.com. I'm going to get started. Look, I'm guessing you got the same thing I do. Number 1 wide receiver in the NFL, Antonio Brown with Pittsburgh Steelers.
Absolutely.
I can't see anybody even coming close to challenging him. I know there's some people out there that are fans of number 2 and 3 on my list, and some people are actually starting to feel like number 4 on my list, but I think Antonio Brown's just head and tails above everybody.
He is. I mean, he's an amazing talent. He's like a man playing with children. There's no other way of really putting it.
Even with the addition of Martavis Bryant coming back from the suspension, he doesn't really eat into the catches of Antonio Brown. I don't see Antonio Brown suddenly dropping off the face of the planet because he has another receiver on the field. He
just becomes the open spot when teams get so frustrated they start to try to triple team Bryant.
Yeah, absolutely.
He ends up being the open option.
I don't think anybody comes close to him. I know there are some people who debate
the next two.
Yeah,
I have Beckham and Jones, which
that's what I have as well,
listed almost identically as 2 and 3. As their values are pretty much interchangeable. Both come close, but I favor Julio Jones a little more.
I do too. I think the only reason that your listing and mine also have Beckham ahead of Jones is because Jones is an injury risk. I have him listed as projecting to only start 15 games, and maybe that 6 or 12 points the week that he's out is why they're making the difference.
Jones is such a better quarterback, though.
He does. No offense, Eli, but you're not Matt Ryan right now. You're just not.
And there's no knock on Eli. He's a championship quarterback. He runs a system flawlessly, but he doesn't have the arm.
He also doesn't have a run game to help take pressure off.
Or the line, or a lot of things. That's why, Beckham's scoring is a lot on Beckham's ability.
Yeah, it really is.
I think Jones has that added advantage. So
now I see a lot of people talking about moving Mike Evans up from number 4 to number 2 or 3. I understand that there's some debate about that. I think that Jameis Winston is a great quarterback in the making. He's only a couple years into his career. Obviously, Evans is his premier target, but Evans has done so well without anything else on the team. This year, you've got Cameron Brate, you've got O.J. Howard, you've got Deshaun Jackson, you've got other people to throw the ball to. You even got a running back catching the ball.
Jackson is the key difference. To me, that pulls a lot of end zone targets away from him. Because that's what Deshaun Jackson is. He is your deep speed threat. He is the guy that outruns the corners for that long bomb. And trust me, I've seen it personally a lot in my life, and I'm so upset that he is not in Eagles greens, though. Sorry to keep going back to that, but man, that just kills me that he's...
I actually don't miss Deshaun Jackson all that much. I actually thought they were going to go for him in the offseason. Kind of happy they didn't.
They did. He did not come back.
They didn't go hard enough at him.
No, apparently they did, but they got their wideout.
I think if there was not a previous injury history, my number 5 would be up in the number 2-3 range, because he was trending that way his whole career, and that's AJ Green out of Cincinnati.
And I have him at 5 as well. We're pretty on the same mark so far.
Losing him last year really killed that team. I know their win-loss record isn't anything to speak of last year, but the excitement of watching their games, he's like the heartbeat of that team. And now this year you add Joe Mixon, you have somebody who's a hothead, has a jaded history. He's pushing Jeremy Hill, the running back, and Giovanni Bernard, and you got Andy Dalton, who's still trying to find his identity. I just, you know what I mean. I think the Cincinnati Bengals go through AJ Green, and if Green is healthy, I think they're solid, which surprisingly they're projecting him to start all 16 games, which makes it so I don't understand why he's ranked so far down this list. I have Jordy Nelson coming in at 6.
Jordy Nelson is a guy that I think is amazingly talented, and I think the only reason he's as low as 6 is because he has to share the ball with so much other talent. Green Bay, there's so many targets.
There really are.
Aaron Rodgers himself takes away some of the end zone targets because he can score.
Yeah, and when you got to go up against Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb, and you got Ty Montgomery catching balls out of a backfield, and you got Martellus Bennett as a new tight end, not a lot of balls to go around. If you took away one of those targets, I think he moves up at least 2 spots on the ranking.
Absolutely. That being said, I still think he's an underrated stud, and I think he'll score a bunch and is a good value at 6.
What do you think of Mike Thomas out of New Orleans?
Fairly decent.
Where's he rank on your list? I have him at 7.
I have him at 7 as well.
Man,
are mirroring. It's so funny because in all the other lists, they were after the first 2 or 3, they were all over the place. Now we're mirroring each other.
Yeah, that's crazy. I actually am not as high on him. I know the books are. Now it's not that I don't appreciate his talent. I see who else is on the list below him, and I wonder how he could be above some of them.
I could take Hilton or Cooper over him in a heartbeat. Those are my next 2 ranked, by the way.
Well, we're finally going to get off track because my number 8 is actually Dez Bryant.
Oh.
So they put mine has Dez Bryant in at number 8. They have Hilton and Cooper at 9 and 10. Where's Dez on yours?
I have him at 11, and I think he tailed off quite a bit last year.
Yeah, but is that him, or is that the emergence of Ezekiel Elliott, who's going to be gone for 6 games? I like T.Y. Hilton. I wouldn't have him. My list has him at 9. I wouldn't put him anywhere near 9.
I have him at 8.
I wouldn't put him anywhere near the top 15. I'm going to tell you why. In a PPR league, yeah, absolutely. But he doesn't score. And Andrew Luck is hurt. If Andrew Luck doesn't play, you can't catch passes from their backup quarterback.
Hilton kills me because the man is immensely talented, and he should score. He is one of those wideouts that can just pick the ball up over a corner, and he just doesn't score.
Yeah. Now, of course, him at 9 I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Amari Cooper being at 10. I think you said he's at 9 on yours.
Yeah, he's at 9.
I love him. I do.
I can see him scoring a bunch this year. I can see next year him being in the top 5 easily.
As long as Michael Crabtree doesn't get too many of his touchdowns. That's the only thing that worries me. Last year, Crabtree seemed to get so many more than Cooper, but Cooper is clearly the stud on the team. Yeah, the one that really shocks me is we actually I don't know where the buzz and the fandom for Kansas City has come from lately, but Tyreek Hill is not, to me, a top 10, top 11 player. I see him significantly further down the list. Kansas City, to me, Alex Smith is not a prolific quarterback by any stretch. He's a game manager. He doesn't turn the ball over, but he doesn't throw up 350 yards a game or anything like that. And I feel like for you to be a top 10, top 11, top 12, 13, 14, 15, your quarterback better be capable of putting up 300 yards almost every week, or at least half the season. And I don't see that ever from Alex Smith. There are weeks Alex Smith throws for 125 yards.
I have him at 27.
Yeah, see, that I'm okay with. I'm okay with that. I don't get it. I have no idea why he's that high on the list. I don't appreciate. I don't support that at all. Doug Baldwin, who comes in after him, I actually think is serviceable at that spot. If you're drafting, you're getting into the 3rd round, you need a wide receiver, there's a run on wide receivers, Doug Baldwin, solid pickup. I don't know. There's going to be people who they're going to see like Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones, Mike
Cooks
Evans. Like all those guys will start to run, and somebody's going to panic and take Doug Baldwin early. Please don't. He's not going to score enough touchdowns to make that worthwhile. You have other options that are better. I'll take Devontae Adams over him any day of the week. Another Green Bay wide receiver, one who last year really emerged as a real threat, a real weapon. And I even take the next guy on my list who I hate to see him this far down the list, but it's all because of the quarterback or the lack thereof, and that's Demaryius Thomas, all the way down to 14. Where's he ranked on yours?
I have him at 15.
Yeah, I just that's a shame.
Right below Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. Gosh, I have him down at 23. And I'm a Chargers fan, but if he was the same Keenan Allen from a couple years ago, I'd be okay with him being top 15. But at this point in his career, I don't see that being realistic.
Now, one that's standing out to me as being too low, just because he's on a new team, but just from, past experience. I know he was injured last year, but Alshon Jeffries with the Eagles.
He's an enigma. I mean, he had some issues in staying healthy for years now.
He is such an amazing talent. If he can stay healthy and find a way to work within that Eagles system, he's got a stud young quarterback with a strong arm.
I have Alshon Jeffrey at 45.
I have him at 21.
Well, that means there's a lot of space in between there to fill. You know who blows my mind? DeAndre Hopkins. Last year before, number 2, number 3. DeAndre Hopkins now in my list, number 16.
I have him at 13.
That's a sin because
I also have an injury notice on him.
Well, yeah, he'll be all right though.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty solid, but I can't. They have him starting all 16 games, but they only have him getting 9.1 points a game, and that's just heartbreaking for a guy who's so talented, using up the best years of his career in Houston with no quarterback. I'm hoping that they get some better quarterback play this year.
Speaking of wideouts with new teams, how do you think Terrell Pryor is going to fare for the Redskins?
I actually have him at 17, and I hope he does well. Think about his career. You come out of college as a quarterback, you get drafted by the Raiders in that supplemental draft because he came out in a funky way. It doesn't work out. Then you go to Cleveland, you transition to being a wide receiver. Your quarterback gets injured like the first or second game of the season. Now you're spot popping in, playing quarterback here and there, and you're trying to play the wide receiver position. For people who don't realize, this is a 1,000-yard receiver who played a good chunk of games as a quarterback. That's bizarre. In one game alone, the guy threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and almost ran a touchdown. It's absolutely ridiculous. And he's this far down the list. I hope he lights it up for Washington. And that's not a knock on the Eagles fans listening, because I'm in the Philadelphia marketplace, or the Cowboys fans who are hopefully buying my tickets for as many dollars as possible. Thank you. I appreciate your donation to my retirement fund. But I think the guy is a class act. You got people like, I'm totally brain farting his name right now. Tim Tebow, who comes out, he plays quarterback. He's clearly not an NFL quarterback. He's offered to play running back, and he just refuses to change his position. Here's a guy who's in the same situation. You're not a quarterback in the NFL. You need to change position, and he does it, and he does it well. And it's frustrating because you got to wonder what Tebow would have been if he had become a running back. Probably still not a lights-out stud.
Or a tight end.
Or anything. Give it a shot.
That's true, because he had the athletic ability.
Yeah.
And just because of his personality and his aura he has, even if he was average, the man would have been a star.
Yeah.
But nope. Now he prefers to play baseball, and, everyone's swearing how he's going to see big league time. No. Everyone's comparing him to Michael Jordan. No. The man, it was...
that's pretty sad when Michael Jordan's got more baseball skill than you do. Just saying.
Well, in college for North Carolina, Jordan was a pretty good baseball player. But anyway,
oh, dear God.
We're sidetracking a little farther.
I'm looking at my list. I'm looking at 18 and 19. Both irritate the snot out of me. 18, 19, and I'm going to skip 20 because on 20 on my list is Gronkowski. Like I said, they throw the tight ends into the wide receiver list here for some reason. I have Emmanuel Sanders, Larry Fitzgerald, and Kelvin Benjamin. And that bothers me. Now, I'll be honest with you. After that, there's only one that bothers me, but those three bother me that they're that far down the list. Fitzgerald is like the ageless man last year. Emmanuel Sanders is, again, just like Demaryius Thomas. It's all about the quarterback.
I have them at 28 and 29 on my list.
Oh, my God. And Kelvin Benjamin's about being fat. You know, I'm a fat guy, but I'm not a football player. Kelvin Benjamin, you need to get your head straight, get the camp in good shape, because you are one of the best receivers in the league. If you are drafting a wideout, you may be getting a steal with Benjamin later in the rounds if people actually believe this rank. They have him at 21 on my list. The only ones that really bug me that are so far...
35.
You know, the one that really bugs me that's so far down the list is Brandon Cooks. You go from Drew Brees and lighting the world on fire last year to New England with Tom Brady, and you fall to 24? Like, where's Brandon Cooks on your list?
I have Brandon Cooks at 10.
10?
Yes, Brandon Cooks, I have it.
I'm okay with that, because you're going to be playing with freaking Tom Brady.
Yeah.
My list has him all the way down at 24. Now, I know they think that they're just going to spread the ball around like crazy in New England, but dear God.
No, he's their number one.
Clear-cut number one. As a matter of fact, instead of other people pushing him for touches, he's going to be taking touches away from Gronkowski, from, you know, the other players on the team. I don't understand him being this far down my list at all. Martavis Bryant is 25. He should be higher. Jarvis Landry is 26. He should be higher. You know, when you got Tyreek Hill at 11... Really? Mike Thomas is all the way up there. What have they proven? Brandon Cooks was better than Mike Thomas last year, and he's with a better quarterback now. I just don't understand. Stephon Diggs is another one who's a talented guy. I have him at 29. I would love to see him move up the list. I know why he's down the list, and it's all because of the quarterback. He's going to be having Sam Bradford throw him the ball, and as a Philadelphia market person, I completely understand moving him down a few notches.
Actually, Bradford in the right system isn't awful.
You know, he did set an NFL record for accuracy percentage last year. I see Allen Robinson is way down my list. He's at 39. That has to be because of Blake Bortles. That actually drives me a little bit nuts. Same with Rashard Matthews. He's all the way down at 40. Now, this irritates me because when we did the show on the tight ends, they had Delaney Walker as number 7 on my list, and it's all about Marcus Mariota evolving. But then you have one of his biggest targets all the way down at 40. On the wide receiver list. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, that doesn't make any sense at all.
And, of course, then you got Alshon Jeffrey on my list at 45. It's a little annoying.
Low? Really?
He's at 45, one spot ahead of Jeremy Maclin with the Baltimore Ravens. And at 2 spots ahead of Randall Cobb, who's all the way down at 48. I don't understand that at all either. I will throw this one out. We're going to do a future episode on sleepers and busts, but I'm going to throw out a sleeper right now because as I'm looking at this list, there's somebody here that I absolutely love. When you look at the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver core, Gabriel is a stud. And he did really well at the end of last season. I think he's going to be in for a much bigger role this year. So I'm just throwing that out there as a little caveat to our wide receiver rankings. I think he's going to be solid.
Another wide receiver I see way too low, and I know he's technically the second option, but DeSean Jackson,
yeah,
he is an end zone threat. That's why he's there. He is that deep pass, deep route guy.
So as I'm looking at this, we've covered all the major positions. We didn't do defenses. If you really wanted us to do defenses, we throw out 4 or 5. But usually most people have their defense ideas down. Looking at my list, I don't know if do you even have defense rankings on yours?
I do.
I mean, I look at mine.
And honestly, the spread is so tight. I have.
Give me your top 5. What do you got for your top 5?
I have Seattle, Denver, Kansas City, Houston, and Arizona.
Yeah, mine has Kansas City, Minnesota, Carolina, Denver, Houston. Which, by the way,
Minnesota is my 6.
By the way, they have Philadelphia on this list as 8, but after watching that preseason game last night and seeing their new corner in action, they should be moving up at least 2 spots on this list. I'm just saying, and I'm not even an Eagles fan, but I'm just saying.
Remember, the defense goes off of points.
Well, and turnovers, you know?
Turnovers and points, correct. But the teams that generally have the better, we get the special teams and the special teams points.
That's true.
What I always try to look for is the few defenses that have the amazing kick return games, the ones that take it to the house threat.
So we're going to look at an overall, say, top 30 or so. We'll pick them. I'll have Jay will start. He'll just throw out. He's the number 1 pick in the draft. Who you taking, and then I'll play off of that. We both play in the same league, so some of this we're not going to be like, okay, I've got 2 running backs, I better not take another one.
We don't even know where we're picking yet. So.
Yeah, we purposely have not done draft order. We were thinking about doing it tonight, and that did not work out, thankfully. And we're going to try to wrap this up in about 8 minutes, so we're going to go relatively quickly. But who do you got kicking off the draft?
Well, on my rank at top 200, obviously I have the 2 running backs. I have Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson, and I probably would lean towards David Johnson just because of what you said before. Le'Veon Bell being a little bit of an injury risk, and he's suspended too, isn't he?
Yes. So, yeah, I'm same thing. I have David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. After that, I got to put Antonio Brown.
Absolutely. And I would go Brown, Beckham, Jones the next 3 spots, just because there is such a drop-off after that.
See, now my list is a little different, and I'm going to throw my 2 cents in aside from the list. So my list has Beckham, like you said, and then they put Devonta Freeman. I would not put Devonta Freeman that high because he shares time with Tevin Coleman. However, after him, they have Aaron Rodgers. And I had said during our quarterback section of our draft special series here that Aaron Rodgers in, say, the 5, 6, 7 range I'd be willing to take. I would take Aaron Rodgers at 6.
On my list, I have him at 34.
Wow, that's really low. Well,
he's my first quarterback on the list, too.
Interesting.
Just because there is... And honestly, if he was open in the 2nd or 3rd round, I might jump on him just because there is so few quarterbacks who come close to his scoring level. Where there is a plethora after that first 2 running backs and first 3 wideouts. The selections are fairly even.
So for me, I would say if I'm picking, so we have David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham. If I was picking that next spot, it would be Julio Jones.
Yeah, and to me, Julio Jones and Odell Beckham are interchangeable. I might take Jones over Beckham personally.
I would take Rodgers at 6. Just because in our league, in the way we set things up, he probably is worth a high pick. Our league, very different than a lot of others. So don't just go by what we're saying. If your league heavily favors PPR and things like that, it'll totally change what you're looking at. Who would you take? Okay, so now we've got those guys off the board. Whoever's left, who would you take next?
Well, then you're going to kind of lean back towards the running back. So, look at Melvin Gordon, LaShawn McCoy, and Freeman.
I would of those, I would actually go Melvin Gordon, then LaShawn McCoy, then Devonta Freeman. That's the way I would run
That's the way they're ranked on my list.
Yeah, I would do that. And then right after that, Mike Evans. I think that's a great spot, because if you're that guy coming in for the 10th pick in the draft, you take Mike Evans as your first pick. You got a stud wide receiver. You got a couple extra minutes because of the way we at least if you do in the snake-style league, the back and forth, you get a couple extra minutes to think about your other pick. And at that spot, do you jump on Tom Brady, or do you go for a riskier pick, something like a Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, something of that nature? If I'm picking and I hadn't had a quarterback yet, I would probably go Tom Brady.
If I'm around 10 to 12, that's when I start to look past wide receiver, running back skill selections, because at that point, both are going to be fairly easy to pick up in the later rounds, and you're not going to drop off hugely. This is where I look at either quarterback or maybe even taking Gronkowski.
I would not be surprised to see somebody take Gronk at 10. So we got Brady off at 10, Gronk at 11, because we're to keep up pacing. That leaves me sitting there looking at, oh gosh, you know what? I'm just being honest, because of the potential down the road, and like you were saying about the parity of the running backs after the first 3 or 4, I'd take Ezekiel Elliott right there. I really would. Because I can get a backup running back to fill in the first 6 weeks. I think he'll play this year. I think he's going to have a reduction. I think he's going to get 3 games.
You know what? And he probably will. He probably will have a reduction.
So who are you taking after that? I can't believe my 2nd overall pick last year, Todd Gurley's still there, and honestly, I'm not even looking at him yet.
After that, I'm probably looking back towards the skill positions like Jordan Howard or Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I could see Howard there, or Gurley. You know what? I'm trying to hold off on Gurley just because I don't know what's going to happen with a new coach and the addition of Sammy Watkins. But you know who intrigues me there a little bit? AJ Green, because you're now in the you're into the 2nd round. If you're in the 1st round, you took somebody like a Julio Jones or you took an Antonio Brown, and you have an opportunity to nab your other stud wideout. You don't have to worry about wide receiver then for quite a while. So I'd be looking at AJ Green. Maybe Jordy Nelson. Actually, wow. I actually think I might be favored Jordy Nelson over AJ Green. So if I have to pick one for let's see, this would be our 12, 13, 14th pick in the draft, I would go Jordy Nelson, I think. Where are you going with 15?
Well, after Jordy Nelson, let me see. Possibly Michael Thomas.
Really?
Hilton.
See, I'm so not a fan of Hilton this year. I could see that. I can understand it because Hilton is consistent. I just don't think he finds the end zone enough. You know what? Me personally, if say you take Hilton, I think I would actually take the chance and go for Dalvin Cook with Minnesota. I know he's going to have Latavius Murray behind him, pushing him, but I just think he might be just a lights-out stud. I really do.
Well, you had mentioned him before as being a solid performer last year. I could see Isaiah Crowell being next.
I can too. I'm not surprised. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Which actually, surprisingly, the different people that we've named, we've now caught up to where everybody on my list has lined up, with the exception of one, with the people on your list. Because we're about to pick, you're going to pick number 20, and I only have one person left in my top 20. So who would you take at 20?
I'm going to probably even go out of order on my list a little bit and reach down for him, but I just love DeAndre Hopkins. And I just see him as being such a scoring threat. He's one of those wideouts that I think is underrated, and I think he could probably score more than what most of these fantasy football forecasts are predicting. So,
I think, because I'll be starting with pick 21, and that's going to be the third round. I think if I've already got 2 running backs, I'm set. But if I don't, if I have running in a wide receiver, I think I'm actually looking. People call it a reach. I don't think it's a reach. I really don't. I'd go Leonard Fournette there. I think he's going to be a stud for Jacksonville. I can't see him not putting up a big year. That puts us at 22 with a minute left in our broadcasting time. Who do you got at 22, Jay?
I'm going to mutilate the name Jay Ajayi.
Jay Ajayi? I'll take Jay Ajayi. And you take Jay Ajayi, I take DeMarco Murray. Who do you got after that?
No, I was going to go DeMarco Murray after that, so... other than that, I mean, you got Dez Bryant still sitting out there.
I could do that. That's pretty much all the time we have, guys. Hate to cut you guys, but we got a 30-minute time limit. Thanks, as always, to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects we used in today's show. To U.S. News and World Report Best Colleges 2018, available right now at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. And to Fufu Games' new game of strategy and collective fun, it's Legendary Elements. Travel around the universe collecting items that will make you master the elements. Get your copy today at thegamecrafter.com/games/legendary elements. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today, and we look forward to chatting with all of you guys once again throughout the season as we cover the world of fantasy football. Until next episode, take care. Have a great night.